Our primary tripod is the Manfrotto tripod, which comes in this case. We zip it open, and basically the Manfrottos are the sort of Rolls Royce of tripod in the TV and film industry. With the Manfrotto, you get an aluminium lightweight base bar with a couple of metal pieces on it, but it's relatively easy to hold. It's not a particularly heavy piece of kit. The first thing you need to do with it is to basically raise what we call the camera bar so that it comes out at a 90-degree angle to the tripod legs themselves. We do that by opening the lever here. This lever, left to loosen, right to tighten, as with most levers you'll encounter along the way. So I turn it to the left, and that frees up a set of little spiky teeth which hold the bar in place. I can show them to you here. So we're literally looking at these little spiky teeth here, and when I open that, I free them up. I can raise the bar up once they're loose enough, and then I can lock it back into position, making sure that the teeth intersect rather than grind down on each other. Okay? So once that's in position, my bar is out at 90 degrees, I then rest one leg on the ground and pull the other two legs out like so. So I have my tripod balanced on the ground. The other key thing to note here is two little spirit levels. So again, if I tilt down, you can see one here where my finger is pointing, and one up above it where my finger is not pointing, but you can see the two little green circles. Standard spirit level, an air bubble trapped in a little blob of water. The idea is that they enable you to keep the tripod on a level pitch horizontal to the ground so that you're not going to get crooked imagery. Generally, these tripods I should say, are used for interviews, for news situations, etc, etc. So they come with a handy little sidebar here. It's a lever. When we press this, again I'll bring this up to you, when we press this roundy wheel here, out it pops, and you can then, just with the lever alone, raise or lower a centre bar on the tripod to bring it up to whichever height you wish. The general rule of thumb when filming a seated interviewee is that the height of the tripod should be level with the eye line of the seated interviewee. So basically you shouldn't be looking down on them, you shouldn't be looking up at them, you should be on a level horizontal high line with the camera mounted on the tripod. They should be looking straight into the camera. You can also obviously adjust the height of the camera with the legs when you are not doing seated interviewees. Personally, I like to always bring this bar up sufficiently that it enables me to just get a grip on the tripod here, so it's therefore handy to move around should you need to move it around. But the general rule of thumb in terms of camera operation with these Manfrottos is that the tripod head should be level or just below level with the camera operator's shoulder. So we do that by opening the three wheels here, 1, 2 and 3. And then with my handy little bar there, I can raise that up so the legs drop down and I'm approximately level with my shoulder, a little bit less. Lock the three wheels back into place. And now, this is where the spirit level comes into its own. We check our little spirit level, which I showed you, and we make sure by adjusting the legs bit by bit that the air bubble is in the centre of the little black circle in the spirit level. So I'm going to start with this leg here, loosen it, and adjust until I've got the bubble right on this one, and then same here, open and adjust. Now I've got it very, very close to the middle, so I'm nearly there. I just need to lock this one, and then go to the final leg. Open it, raise or lower, depends on where your tripod is set. When you get that in the right position, I now have my air bubble dead center in the spirit level, and I know that I am level with the horizon that I'm shooting on. There are two primary movements that we tend to do with the Manfrotto. There is, and remember the camera is normally mounted on this, we won't put the camera on yet. There is a pan movement. Pan is a standard camera move. You pan across a landscape, or you pan across a room full of people, or you pan from one thing to another to make an artistic point. But the bottom line is, with a pan, there are a couple of crucial things to remember. With a pan, you decide on what your starting point is and what your end point is before you do your pan. You frame and compose your start point, then you go into record mode on the camera. You hold that stationary frame for approximately 3 seconds, then you pan, generally left to right, but you know where you're ending also. So you end up on a frame that you've already planned, and you hold that frame stationary for 3 seconds. This gives your editor material to work with. He or she is not cutting from a moving shot, they're cutting from a stationary shot, doing the pan, and then ending on a stationary shot. That is the pan movement. The other movement we do with the tripods is the tilt movement. You pick a plane up in the air, go into record mode, and then you tilt down from the plane in the air to the person on the ground talking to camera. So pan and tilt are the two primary movements with the Manfrotto tripods. However, all professionals will say that at least 70% of your material, when you're working on short pieces, the sort of pieces we see on Ear to the Ground or Nationwide or the Evening News, pre-recorded video pieces of which we will be making our own, 70% of the material should be stationary, well-framed, well-composed, mid-shots, wide shots or close shots. So with that in mind, because the makers of these tripods know that that is the case, they have put two lock mechanisms in. What it means is that when I line up my shot and I compose my shot, to stop me accidentally panning and jiggling, there's a lock lever here, and when I pull that out, it locks the ability to pan with the camera. You cannot pan anymore. Careful with that, because if that's pulled out and you force this, you can see there's already a bit of give in it from students who have forced it in the past, you can damage the tripod itself. Close that back in, and then there's a similar lock for the tilt option. You can see right now I can tilt, but this large wheel here has the word lock with an arrow on it. If I turn that clockwise to lock it, I can now no longer tilt. If I force it, I'll damage the little set of teeth I showed you earlier on, but basically I cannot tilt until I open up this lever, and now I can tilt again. So they're the two key things to recognize with the Manfrotto tripod.